So what was the thought process when very soon, I think after graduating from high school, you pack up your car and head across the country to LA, and then in your mind, what would make it worth sticking around? What was sort of the criteria that you were going to judge your success or failure by in that initial period?
If I had thought that way at 17, I would have been doing different things. I just wasn't that smart. I sort of thought this will be fun. I didn't know anyone who had had any success at all in TV or film. And my best friend in high school, we packed up the car and told my mother I wasn't going to college and broke her heart, and then and drove to LA, which took us about 3 months in and of itself because we just went like this.
Right.
And then I got out there, and these details can't possibly be interesting to a theater full of people. I can't. Okay. So we got out there, and I looked for. We lived in Eagle Rock, which we thought was Los Angeles, and I got a job as a busboy because I wasn't old enough to serve liquor as a waiter. I wasn't 18 yet, and I went to about a handful of auditions. I think it was only for Saved by the Bell episodes. And then I was going to go, I didn't get any work, and I was going to go back east and do something else, go to school. And I got an audition. I was literally packed, and I was leaving our apartment. We were all everyone was clearing out, and I had an audition for Gus Van Sant's To Die For. Howard Feuer was the casting director, who's since passed away, but he was cast a lot of great movies, and I met with him 6 times, and I thought, like, will this ever end? I thought you went to an audition and then you got it or you didn't get it. I didn't realize, because I'd never had a callback, right. So I didn't know that it went on past 1, and I would just go sit with Howard Feuer, and he would ask me, that was back when you could smoke in offices, this was 1,000 years ago, and he would just sit there smoking, and he'd say, can you do this? And I was like, I drove all the way over here, and he's asking me if I can do this. And then he put me in a room with Gus Van Sant, who I read it for him once, and he said, oh, you've prepared it. And I said, well, yeah, it's been about a month in getting into this room with you. And he said, can you do it in a way that you haven't prepared it? And so I just tried to do it differently. That was the only direction, was not the way you're doing it now. And I did it differently, and then he took my picture, which is something that he does in every audition, used to do, and then I got that job. And then so I have no idea what your question was, but I went from, that was where...
You're on track. So,
yes. Yeah.
So you get that job, and that was the beginning of not only a long and important relationship with Gus, which we'll get to why it was important, but also Joaquin Phoenix, I guess, became out of that. You met him on that and became very close, and obviously a great movie. But when that movie came out and it was well received, rather than trying to parlay that into the next great role or whatever, what did you do?
I went to school. I went to, but first I should say that this is how, not that long ago, people had different attitudes about certain things. I was going to do To Die For, and there were more than a few people said, you should be really careful on that movie. Did you know that Gus is gay? And I thought, I'm not even sure what relevance that has to anything. I had seen his movie, which was absolutely, he was sort of famous in 1989. There was this explosion of independent movies, and it was like Spike Lee and Steven Soderbergh and Gus Van Sant, and they all had movies at Sundance that year. And it was kind of the birth of that era of independent movies, and a few other people. And someone had written a book about it called Spike, Mike, Slackers and Dykes, I think, which was all I knew about that world. And by reading that movie, and I knew Drugstore Cowboy was Gus's movie, and I just loved it. And so I went and did that, and I became very close with Gus, and is still a close friend of mine. And it has been, as you said, an important relationship. And He's been both like a very, very dear, one of my closest friends, and also a kind of mentor. And he's asked me to, I edited on one of his movies, and he's just included me in a million ways, and that he lived in the same apartment building as I did in New York, and he was shooting doing a movie with Harris Savitas, who was one of the great, also passed away, but one of our best cinematographers ever. And they would come down. Gus said, "Oh, I don't have a TV in my space. Can we use your TV?" Which I think was just an excuse to try to include me. And he said, "We're going to come down and I'm going to show Harris movies, and we're going to talk about how we want our movie to look." And so he did that. And so it was this kind of free film school with these guys. I would just sit and listen to them